All right, you ready to get started?
Yep.
All right. So I know yesterday we talked about matrix band, wedges, all of that. We're gonna go back a little bit. Okay. We're gonna actually go back to the amalgam. Okay. Well, first, before we start on the amalgam, do you have any questions about anything chapter 38?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Cool. All right. So, do you know your steps to amalgam fillings yet? You want to go through those real quick?
Yeah,
Okay. So, do you have the like the trade pamphlet?
not with me.
Okay, I'll go through it.
Actually,
All
I
right.
mean,
So, oh, it'll be okay. I'll go through it. I'm gonna kind of go in detail, so you'll be fine. All right. So, first step for any kind of filling, but we're gonna do amalgam filling, which that is the silver filling. The first step is gonna be removing the decay from the tube, which would be, the dentists have the high speed and slow speed hand pieces and actually taking out the bad part of the tooth. So basically taking the decay or the sugar bug out of the tooth, that'd be the first step. If it goes too deep to the pulp chamber, then we would go back to the dical, which we learned that the other day too. That was the two part that you had to mix together. That's the dical. So again, you would, same as we did the other day, you would mix it both together, put it into the hole, let that sit. Okay. Then after that, you would isolate with the Tophamar matrix band from last night that I showed y'all. That, the wedge, and then you would actually fill the tooth. Okay, so I'm gonna try to show you some of that real quick. I'm not gonna actually turn on the machine, but I'm gonna show you like the basic parts to it. So this is called amalgamator. We're gonna pretend like this is the newer model, but it's called amalgamator. And this is what shakes up this capsule of powder to make the amalgam for the amalgam filling. So in order to do the amalgam filling, you will need amalgam oil. I'm sorry. You need your amalgam carrier, packer, cleoid distoid. I'm trying to organize everything. All right. So everything's already done. You've removed the decay out of the tooth. You have placed the dical in the tooth. You've isolated the tooth by putting the Tophamar matrix band and the wedge on. So then, once you're ready to prep, well, you've done with prep, and once you're ready to fill the tooth, you take your well carrier. I don't know if you can see that. I can't really see my screen, but it's
yeah.
just a small bowl, basically. You take that, get some gloves. Alright. So you come over. This is the amalgam. It doesn't always come in this color, but they will be shaped like that. It looks like a little peel, sort of, and it's full of powder. So you don't shake it. You just carry it over. You put it into the amalgamator. And tomorrow in class, I actually show y'all that way you can see it up close because I know you can't really see the whole thing. But you'll put the capsule into the amalgamator like that. So you just pop it into there. You'll turn it on to however long the dentist wants it shook. Um, dentists normally put it in between, I would say, 13 seconds to 24 seconds. I've done 23 seconds today. Turn it on, shake it. It shakes real good, mixes everything together. Once it's all mixed together, you just simply just pull it open and then you pour it into there. Okay? Now, instead of it being a powder, it'll be, it's not a solid, but it's more of a solid once it's shaken. Okay? So once it's shaken pretty good, you get your amalgam carrier. It's got two sides. One side, the carrier is bigger than the other side. What I do is I pack both sides same time. I'll pack the big side first, flip it over, pack the small side, and then I see which side the dentist wants. Now, if you're doing a smaller tooth or the prep was small, you're really not going to need the big hole because it's basically not even going to go into there. So, kind of judge based off of how big the dentist prep was. So, for this instance, let's just say it was a pretty big cavity. So, I'd fill the big side, and you literally just, I hold my finger under, I know you can't see that, I'm sorry. I hold my finger under this part. That way, whenever I'm scooping the amalgam into it, it's not trying to go ahead and close on me. So I put my finger under there, scoop the amalgam, switch sides, scoop it again, and you hand it off to your dentist. Um, if you're going to work with the big side first, then you want to hand the dentist that side down. Okay. So if I'm handing it to you, you're the dentist, and this is the big side, I would hand it to you like this. That way, if I'm the dentist, I grab it and put it right into the tooth, hand it to you, or swap sides, hand it to you, and then go from there. Okay. Am I going too fast for you?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Good. All right. So we filled the tooth. Let's just pretend like we feel that real good. Swap it over, put a little more in there. So now we got that. Now you take your packer condenser and they're gonna go into the tooth and they're literally gonna pack it into there. And it's gonna be a little pressure because they literally have to pack it good. Most of the times they'll go right back, scoop a little more, put a little more in there, pack, 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 pack it all real good. All right, after that, after it's all packed, then yeah, we go to shaping it. So it's a little harder to shape amalgam because it's so hard and it's so sturdy. So it's kind of got to be a fast transition on this part. So you go from packing, it's as full as it could get. They're gonna need a cleoid discoid. Uh, 90% of the time, they're gonna use the cleoid part, the part of the cleoid discoid. So the cleoid is the sharp part. Sorry, I don't know if you can really see it,
It
but
looks like a little like pin.
basically, yeah. I'll show you the smarts. But the other side is kind of rounder than the other one. Use the sharp part, being that you want to get into every groove of the tooth because you're not just going to pack it and leave it flat. You want to shape it like actual tooth. So you would literally have to go through, scrape out the excess. You'd have to dig your own little grooves. You have to go in between the two. Everything up good. Once once everything is exactly how they want to adjust it, most of the time they'll take like a wet Q-tip or like a wet cotton ball, wet cotton roll, something with a little water, like just a little damp, and they'll rub it on the tooth just to make sure everything's cleaned off real good. That way, when the patient leaves, they don't have like a chalky taste, they don't have flakes coming out, or if the flake is already in the mouth, you go ahead and rinse everything out real good because you don't want them swallowing any amalgam. Okay, no amalgam whatsoever. So we We removed the K. What else did we do? We put a little dot cowl in there. We isolated the tooth with the matrix band, tough them off. We packed the tooth with the actual material. We shaped the tooth with the cleidiscoid, the Hollenbeck, the Woodson. Next, you would check the bite. Okay. So this is called the articulating paper holder. Can you really see what this is?
Kinda.
Okay. But it's articulating paper holder, and this little thin blue piece of paper, which is comes in blue and red, is called articulating paper, and it's just super thin little piece of paper, but it checks the bite of the tooth. So it'll check the occlusion, the biting surface of your teeth. So after fillings, you want to check your bites. Basically, what that is, let me show you. I'm sorry. All right, sorry. So whenever you check in your bite, you want to check the occlusions, which those are the biting surfaces, remember? So you would put it into the patient's mouth, right on that surface that you did. Tell them to bite down, that bite, just like that, onto the paper. You tell them to tap their teeth, so to tap, 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 and then get them to grind their jaw, kinda side to side like that. So it's tap, 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 grind, grind, grind. Once it opens, if it's any hot spots on the tooth, it'll show it. So can you see? You probably can't see, but this tooth has some blue marks on it. So now you know exactly where you have high points on the opposing tooth. Because remember, we feel this tooth, but this tooth is marking. Okay, so you get to see on the opposing tooth where your hot spots are on the bottom tooth. So what you do is just go ahead and get your high speed and you tap on the opposing teeth. Okay, little bitty taps, then you can go back down to the actual tooth that we prep. Do a little tap, clean it off real good, and give them the bite again. Tap, 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 grind, grind, grind. Check it out again. If you don't see any blue marks, it's good. If you do keep seeing blue marks, you're just gonna have to keep adjusting it until there are no more blue spots. And you only want to adjust the blue spots. You don't want to adjust the whole tooth because you're going to keep doing it over and over if that's the case. Um, so yeah, just adjust the spots that were marked, and then only adjust kind of like the deep spots that are marked, which I'll show you that tomorrow too. Don't worry about that. If you are adjusting and you just feel like you've adjusted too much off, or you feel like you're about to adjust too much off, just leave it alone. Let your dentist adjust it. Okay. Don't let that freak you out at all. That is something that your dentist can do too. After articulating paper and articulating holder or articulating paper forceps, you would, I didn't bring any floss, but you get a scaler and a floss. Scaler is to again go around the tooth, make sure all of the amalgam is off. That way nothing's flaking in the mouth once the patient leaves. So you just go. This isn't a scaler, but this looks more like one. Let's use it. So you go around the tooth again, make sure all of the material that can fall off is off. Once you got all of that material off, you take the floss, and I did get floss. Take your floss, and you wanna, of course, floss around that tooth. And you wanna get it good, like get up under, just in case any material is not in the gums, okay? So make sure you floss them really good, and you wanna make sure that they can floss once they get home, okay? And wipe them up again, spray them off real good, rinse them out, let them suction, and they're good to go. You can brush that tooth if you want, or brush their whole mouth after that, just so they won't have that metallic taste in there. That's up to you and your dentist. Most dentist offices really wouldn't want to do that because that's kind of wasting material when it's just a flavor in their mouth. But just check with your dentist, make sure, hey, do you want me to brush or are they good to go? Okay. Uh, any questions about that so far? The whole amalgam restoration.
Mm-mm.
Good. All right, I still got time. Good. Let's see. That's all on the amalgam. Do you have any other questions, or do you have you looked through this chapter yet and saw anything you want to talk about, or anything?
Yeah, I've like skimmed, I've browsed. I was in the middle of doing my homework actually whenever you
I'm sorry.
ex- it's okay. This is basically homework.
Yeah. Anything from class from yesterday that you want to talk about? Or?
No, I did watch some videos on like bridges being made and like dentures and stuff last night. And I saw that they used that piece of paper too when they were doing the bridges
Yeah.
to like.
Tap tap tap, grind grind grind.
Mhm.
Yeah. Good. Okay. The other kind of materials that you use for restorations or fillings, which I'd already told you, I do believe, anytime I'm talking about fillings in class, I'm gonna call them restorations, okay, because that's what it is. Um, but as far as restorations go, you have multiple different materials that you can use for restoration. In dentistry, the two biggest ones would be composite material, which is the tooth color shade, or a mouse to silver. Okay. Give me 1 second to try to find it for you. Okay, I can't really find it, but it'll be the same way. Not 100% the same way as the amalgam filling, but like the whole prepping would be the same. You would start off with removing the decay, which is taking the cavity out of the tooth, taking the sugar bug out the tooth. If you go too deep into the prep and it's too close to the pulp chamber, then you would do your die cal, the mixing pad, the die cal, two-part material, and the ball burner to mix together. After the die cal, you would isolate the tooth again with the top amalgamation band, or if it's the front tooth, you use, what do you use for the anterior teeth if you're doing a restoration?
That I know it's like a piece of plastic.
You close. I know what you
Makes it.
mean. The mylar band. Remember the mylar strip, the clear strip?
Yeah. Okay.
The mylar strip, mylar band, whatever they call it at the office you go to. But still, that would still be your third step. You'd be isolating the tube with your matrix band or the actual mylar strip. After isolating, you fill the tube. Since we're not doing amalgam, it would be composite. So with the composite, it would be okay. So we have two different materials in here. Okay, so we have a flowable material, which is called flowable only because of the viscosity of the, which means it flows out easier. Yeah, flowable, flows out easier. That's gonna be the easiest way to remember that. But it has a tip on it. It kind of looks like a syringe or a needle, but it's flowable because it flows out easier. So you can use a flowable And most of the time, floorboards and packables are used for like the back posterior teeth, only because you're putting more pressure and whenever you're eating, talking. Also have which one is this? This is a packable and it's a glass item at the same time. This would be used for like the anterior teeth, and that's a packable. You can use it for posterior too, but in this case, this one would probably be for anterior tooth, only because of how the viscosity, sorry, and it makes it way easier for you to cut it for a front tooth. Okay, but same thing. Let's say it's the back tooth. We've already took the decay out. We've already put the decal in it. Let's pretend like we put a matrix band on it. I can't because it's stone. I don't have a spot to put it. But then once the matrix band is on, same thing. You would go in and you would literally pack it in that tooth. So let me actually get the instrument for this and it will work. I think these two do. Okay. So you pack the two, that one, pack it as good as you can. No, this is, now I need my light. Then you do the light. Okay, so the light, which we did skip a couple steps. I'm just worried about showing you the material tonight because we've already went over edge, we've already went over bond. You can still etch and bond for composite, but I'm just skipping over that because we didn't get to go over all of the whole steps for the tray. But tomorrow we will go through um, the complete steps for amalgam fillings, all the steps for composite fillings, and I'm gonna try to get y'all to actually try to do one for yourself. Okay. Cut your pack, clear it 20 seconds with clear light. Once we've done that, I'm sorry, Nish, I gotta get way more organized. All right. So I don't think I have one in here, but once the tooth is packed, then you would get a burr, which is it's called a disc and mantle. It's a two-part thing. It's like a flat disc, like a flat fan disc. And then a mandrel is just like a little piece that attaches to it. That way it can attach to the high-speed handpiece. And you basically just go through and you sand the tooth like I showed y'all last night, how they were adjusting the teeth at the end with the different polishers and they use water towards the end to smooth it out real good. The same thing. That's literally what this would be. And then that would be it. You check your bite again with articulated paper, bite, tap, 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 grind, grind, grind. Once they finish that, same thing. If there's anything left over, you get your scaler. Make sure everything's clean really well. You get your floss, go back in there, floss everything. Make sure that the floss goes all the way down to the contact. That way you know whenever that patient leaves, they can still floss. Because if they can't floss, it's going to be a problem. So, after that, that's it. Same thing, just a couple more steps with the composite. Just a couple more. I'm going to take those out for class tomorrow, though. So basically, tomorrow is going to be everything that we've been learning put together. So we've learned about the edge and the bone. We've learned about talk about matrix bands and mylar strips. We've learned about decal. We've learned about wedges, and you just learned about amalgam and composite. So tomorrow will be putting all of that together. That's literally all it is. Just putting everything that you learn together and doing it all into one big step. That's it. Okay. Super easy. Don't let it stress you out. You got it. Oh, look, I actually got some discs right here. I don't have the mandrel, but I do have, yeah, I have a disc. Now the disc will be a little bigger, most likely, but it's the same as the ones that you watched on the video. Sorry, it's so little. Uh, did you see it before it fell?
No.
Let's see, I can get another one. Okay, so it's literally just a little sand disc. That's it. I got my instrument is in between it. That way it won't fall. But that's it. And then you put this onto the mandrel, and then that's when you put it on the high speed handpiece, and you'd actually smooth out the teeth. Okay? And that's about it, man. It's easy. One of the first steps, I wish I would not have skipped it, but whenever you're doing a composite, and I shouldn't have skipped it because I want you to get into the habit of this. Anytime you're doing a composite restoration, which that's the color of the teeth, okay? You want to check the shade. This is called a shade guide, and it goes all the way down from bright to dark, okay? And these are just the universal shades in the world, okay? Always check your shade before doing a composite restoration, okay? Always. Check your shade, and then you can let the dentist go ahead and prep the tooth, so remove the decay and all of that. But try not to ever start a composite restoration or composite filling without checking your shade. It's so much harder to check your shade once you're in there because the teeth is gonna look a little darker once you get into it. Okay, so just always check that shade. Okay, so if we're ever in class and I say set up for a composite restoration, I want to see this on every tray. Okay. Now, of course, with amalgam, you don't have to worry about the shade guide because the amalgam is a silver filter. Okay. So, I mean, it's literally going to be one color, silver. You don't have to worry about it. But any composite, check the shades. Okay. All right, ma'am. So, is there anything? Did I go too fast? Is there anything you want to talk about anything that I just went over with you tonight?
Mm-mm.
If we got time, you have to think of some questions.
I never really have any questions. And if I do, like, I usually text Miss Deborah, but if I have questions, like, I'll text you. But I haven't really. I mean, when I first started, Miss Deborah said, like, dentistry is common sense, especially after you, like, so the more, like, I get into it, the more I'm like, okay, well, duh, like,
It really is. It's like, it doesn't seem like common sense at first. It's a complete foreign language. But once you actually take time to sit and absorb the information that we're giving y'all, you're gonna be like, oh well, of course that would be the next step. Like, what else would that step be?
Yeah.
But I mean, it is gonna take a long time. Not a long time, but it'll take some time for y'all to really grasp the complete concept of every single trade that we do with y'all. But eventually you will get it and you'll be like, well, I should have known that before even coming to school, but
Yeah.
it's fine. You got it. Let's see. All right. We got to look at the classes last night as far as like the teeth goes. We went over the shape guide. Kind of went over everything with you already. I'm like looking for something, and yeah, I went over it all. Okay. Let's see. If we're doing a restoration on tooth number 13, would I use a top of my matrix band or would I use a mylar strip?
The matrix band.
Well, yeah, you can. You can. I have in some cases used a mylar strip on that tooth, but it was only for a facial. So I should have went more in detail about that. Um, but like if they were doing just a facial on that tooth, then it would be the mylar strip because it would be, you have to fold it over and it'd be clear. If they're doing an occlusal on 13, then yes, go ahead and use the top mile matrix band. So you're right. That was a trick question. I didn't even realize it was a trick question before I asked it. But let's see. Tooth number 30. Would you use a mylar strip or the top mile matrix band?
The Toffelmeyer matrix band.
Okay. Tooth number 6. Matrix band or mylar?
The the band. Wait, the band or the strip?
Most likely the strip. Okay. So we
Okay.
have
What is that called? Because in my head I keep thinking plastic thing.
is Mylar, Milar. Mylar
Okay.
strip.
My
I mean, they call it other things. They call it Mylar band, Mylar strip, but it's always Mylar. Mylar is not going to change, but the band or the strip, whatever else they call it, that might change.
okay.
So what I'd say, two five or six, two six, two
What'd
six.
you say? You said 6.
Yeah, that would also be a trick one too. So we got two eight, seven, two six. So if we're doing a facial, we're gonna use that matrix. I'm sorry, we're gonna use the mylar strip. If we are doing the incisor, most likely what they'll do is start off with the Tophamar, but then finish with the mylar strip. Because see, this doesn't have the grooves like these teeth does. So they could just put it down there, start the little build up. But once they need the tooth to be as flat as possible, then they would have to take the top of my band off, put the mylar strip on. That way, this is still flat. Okay. You don't want it to be round. You don't want to throw off anybody's natural bite or natural occlusion. Okay. That was another trick when I didn't know it was a trick until I asked. So, last one. Tooth number 24. What would you use?
The Marla strip.
Good job. Good job. Okay. I'm like really, I'm going through the book, and we literally went through this whole chapter 2 days.
Yeah, it goes pretty fast.
Yeah. I just want to make sure I cover everything with y'all while y'all here, and we did the whole chapter already. Um, we talked about polishing. We talked about all of this. Okay, so do you have any question about anything at this point? Not even just the amalgam or the composite. Any question about anything?
Um, not really.
Trying to look for some more stuff, but then especially with you you already got it all, and I'm just like I'm trying to find like trick questions for you because I know you have it. Mhm. I even went over the amalgamator with y'all. Well, I went over with you. I didn't get stuff with you. So we'll do that tomorrow. Yes, ma'am.
Do you
You.
want me to bring in the my mold?
Is that the one you're gonna want to use for like the rest of the class period? Because what we're gonna do is we're gonna start using like a week or two or a tooth a week. So if we're doing amalgam this week, then we'll start with the tooth. We'll put our amalgam filling on that tooth. Next week, if we're doing composite, we'll put a composite restoration or composite filling on another tooth. And we're just gonna keep doing that. That way you will have a model to take home with every everything that we could do in dinner. Okay. Um, dang girl, that's basically it. Like you got it. Just keep looking over this chapter. We're gonna go over everything again, start to finish tomorrow, as far as prepping the tube, isolating it, filling it, shaping it, polishing it, and then letting them go. Okay. Just look over your trays if you can. You don't have to look over all of them. Just look over the amalgam, and if you get a chance, go ahead and look at the composite. Because we're gonna for sure do the amalgam tray tomorrow, and if we have time, we'll jump to the composite since they are kind of together. But for sure, we're gonna do amalgam. So definitely study the amalgam tray and just look over composite. Okay.
Okay.
All right, ma'am. Thank you for joining me, and thank y'all for watching. Whenever y'all do come on to watch. So, all right, I'll see y'all in class tomorrow.
All right.
All right, bye.
Bye.